All right, so good morning, everybody. Another Friday safety meeting. Code item of the week this week is speak and act supportively of ECI as a company and of our workers. Oh, we do have Ben on here. Let's see. Ben, do you have anything to add?
Another way of saying this one is to be positive, strive to solve issues and help each other, and to have tough conversations in private.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ben. Some important reminders. Be sure to submit attendance if you watch in a group setting and bill your job number 6. And daylight savings time starts March 10th, so Monday morning is going to come very early. We have 69 days without a recordable and 21 days without a first aid injury, which is starting to get a good streak going, so let's keep that up. Today we're going to talk about safe driving and defensive driving. And defensive driving is the foundation of safe driving. So, motor vehicle crashes are the #1 cause of fatal work-related incidents. Make sure you follow everybody at a safe distance. And obviously, when the weather's bad, like it's going to be this coming week, make sure that you give yourself an extra couple seconds between you and the car in front of you. Drive at a safe speed for conditions. So that might mean backing it off a bit to drive safely in the snow or the rain or whatever the conditions might be. You don't want to be an anomaly, so you don't want to be anything that anybody doesn't expect to see. So if you're driving down the highway and somebody's doing 45 miles an hour, they're outside the normal of what everybody's expecting. So that could cause an accident pretty easily. Same thing if somebody's doing 95, that's going to be something that somebody's not expecting also. So you just want to kind of go the speed limit and be going the same speed as I don't want to say the same exact speed, but around the same speed as the cars around you. So everybody kind of knows what you're going to be doing and don't change lanes quickly without signaling and stuff like that. And you always want to be vigilant. So put down the phone. Should go without saying while you're driving. 78% of crashes are caused by distracted driving, according to Virginia Tech. And it's funny, even like your watch or something like that. Like in the past, I've found myself glancing at my watch when I'm driving because it's like, oh yeah, your watch vibrates. And then you stop and think, you're like, this is like a phone strapped to my watch. I gotta be mindful of that, you know. So just be mindful that any sort of distraction is gonna add to the next. So like let's say you have somebody in the car and you're kind of chit-chatting and then you add the radio to it, and then suddenly you're taking when you would have 100% of your mind on the road or 90% of your mind on the road, suddenly you're at 60 or 70%. And then you add a dog jumping around in your passenger seat, and now you're down to 50%. And then you add all these different factors in a podcast or whatever, and suddenly your attention span is just being divided into so many different directions that aren't on the road in front of you. And that's when you kind of get into that la la land, and that's what leads to crashes. So it might not be that yeah, you checked your phone once and that caused a crash. It's everything combined with the cell phone that could be enough to cause the crash. So just be mindful of every distraction, but especially the cell phones. So those take your attention span away a lot. So obviously we're driving larger vehicles. They have a bigger footprint on the road. You have more blind spots. And you should know the blind spots that you have on your vehicle and anything that you're near on the job site. So like dump trucks especially have terrible visibility. And one thing a lot of our commercial drivers have said is like, oh, guys just walk around our trucks. Guys just walk around our trucks. And I'm sure anybody out there in the field that hasn't sat in a dump truck, if you asked any of our drivers to sit in their dump truck for a minute to see where their blind spots are, you'll have a whole new appreciation for how far away you want to be from a dump truck without making eye contact with the driver. So um, just make sure of that. And then the other thing you see there is you have high energy collisions. So anytime that you're adding mass to a vehicle, so weight basically to a vehicle, you're increasing the energy that is in an accident. So that's why a motorcycle is going to fare worse than a Mack truck if they collide head on. So you're gonna, or I should say, a motorcycle is going to fare worse from a Prius hitting or from a Mack truck hitting them than a Prius. So just be mindful of that it takes longer to stop and you have more energy. When you're hauling a load, you want to make sure you secure the load. Make sure you're using proper device, whether it's chains and binders or straps, and you're using the right size strap, and make sure they're in good condition. They're not frayed or worn or anything like that. Under most circumstances, you want to get 2 straps or chains on your load. There are some exceptions, like if you physically can't, but you really want to aim for 2, and you kind of want them to pull against each other if possible, so it's holding stuff down. Because if you just strap it straight down, let's say you have a log in your truck and you just strap it straight down, then it's not really gonna keep it from rolling. You either want to give it a wrap or do whatever you got to do, but you want the straps to kind of work against each other to work for you. And you want to prevent any shifting or rolling of your load. So you want to give regular checks to your load, and while you're driving, just glance back, make sure everything's good, but you don't want to give it your full undivided attention. And we actually had an accident this past summer where somebody was driving down the road and they were more focused on looking at their load that was on the back of their truck than they were on the car in front of them, and ended up having accident out here on Wilson Road. So just be mindful of that you want to give it a little bit of attention, but you don't want to give it your undivided attention. So before you go, make sure your securement is adequate and tight, and that your lights work on your trailer if you have one. Shortly after departure, one thing I like to do if I'm going to be towing something a little funky is I like to stop at the fuel depots over one way or the other, top off my tank, and give a couple extra tugs to my straps and make sure everything looks good, just because right after you leave, your load's going to settle out and stuff. And then every time I stop for whatever reason, I always make sure just to check my straps, make sure I don't need to reevaluate how I'm tying it down, and just make sure everything's snugged up, because things will shift a little bit as you go and hit potholes and whatever else. So trailering. So you avoid towing a trailer unless you can back it up. And if you need training on towing, backing, or trailer securement, make sure you ask. One thing that if you can't do something around here, there's always people that can do it and are willing to help teach you. And it's just a matter of reaching out, and either your foreman or we can facilitate somebody to help you out with that. If you can't see behind your trailer, use a spotter. And obviously when you're towing a trailer, usually you want to back into where you're going. You don't want to try to back out with a trailer, because that's never a good day. I think we've all probably been in that circumstance where we've had to back out with a trailer, and don't want to end up there again. And make sure to take the time, if you have newer employees, that you work with them on backing up trailers and securing them properly and doing everything that we just talked about on trailers.
We won't talk about Tommy's trailer incident.
One time.
Yeah. You learn a lot from those experiences.
Yeah,
That's right.
Teachable
moments.
Down Corky's driveway with a snowmobile trailer and a jackknife. So I think we had a similar incident this. Yeah, we had a similar incident this winter. So, so you want to make sure you drive at a safe speed. Always be 100% focused on the road, and only haul what you're trained to haul. And ECI employees carry a wealth of knowledge and skills. If you need extra training or help, just ask somebody, and somebody will be more than happy to help. So I'm gonna kick it back over to you.
Okay, so I'll just add, and maybe there's other comments, but last year we kind of switched over to a heavier ratchet strap. We have, of course, like the 3,000 or 3,500 pound straps, which are good for any significant load, even if you're, I mean, a load of lumber, for example, is too much, I think, for a regular ratchet strap. But we got those, I think they're 1,100 pound or 1,000 pound straps here last year. We started getting those because we had, for some reason, the vendors started selling us a lighter duty strap that was only good for like what, 800 or 900, Matt or Tom?
Yeah.
Maybe you know, remember? So if you don't have the heavier, these were the black straps, mostly black. Sometimes you see them blue, but they're like rated for quite a bit more than the older straps. And I had an experience where one of the older straps broke under a load.
Yeah.
And make sure
Those orange ones. Yeah.
Oh yeah, make sure you always have extra straps or chains with you when you're towing, just because, or not necessarily when you're towing, but when you're hauling anything. Because if you get to a position where you realize, oh, I don't think this is adequate, when you stop for a coffee or whatever, and you don't have extra straps, you're probably not going to add a strap. But if you have extra straps with you, you'll probably be like, oh, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to toss an extra one on there. So,
Right. And if it's a matter of, oh, I wonder if I should put on a heavier strap, we'll put on a heavier strap, right? So,
Yeah, and
Sure.
when you leave for it always seems really tight when you leave, and then when you start bouncing around a little bit, things loosen up. So if you stop for a coffee, make sure to go back there and check your load. You might get a surprise.
And just want to add, just clean off those trailers. A lot of stone could be left, and we get a lot of calls on broken windshields. Those can get difficult to resolve. So again, just make sure those trailers are good and clean from any stone or dirt debris.
Yep.
okay, thanks.
Huh.
And let's see the announcements this week. So we want to remind everybody again, don't forget to set your clocks ahead by 1 hour. I'm sure everyone will be hearing about it all weekend, but I think for me, it's time to start getting mentally prepared at this point. And just seems like it's hard to get going on that. Even if it's almost only an hour, it just seems so much harder. That first week is hard for the whole week. Vehicle insurance cards are in, so see Chico, Pat Wells, or Scott Burns. Scott's out this week. If you have a vehicle assigned to you, one of those guys will have a card for you. And also I have a request to submit your maple sugaring photos for an upcoming weekly email. So send me what you got and we'll have a posting. I got to do my photos here, download pictures.
speaking of Scott Burns, I guess he's already at the pool this morning. So
Oh,
I think he's probably having a better morning than we are with the cold.
you could have given us a better vision.
Yeah.
Than that.
I sent some pretty good visions, Kenny, but I don't think you want them.
Yeah, I don't want those visions. Okay. New employees. We have Wayne Westover with the Rail Group. And Paul Saburn III. Oops, he's going too fast by us here. Let's back up a bit here. So we have Paul. He's a returnee, of course. Paul Saburn II's son. We have Garrett Frago, hopefully I pronounced that right, in the heavy civil group. And we have, I guess, a returnee from last year is Ben Calero in the concrete group. So welcome aboard, everybody. I met him all the other day. So, or at least everybody but Garrett. I don't think I've met Garrett yet. Let's see, I'm carrying this just announcement to keep everybody thinking about the ECI children's size sweatshirts are now available. So check with Sarah if you want to get in on the upcoming order. I'll have to get her to tell me when that order is made so I can take this announcement off. We have the ECI primary wellness program link, so check that out. And also remember, you need a yearly checkup. So if it's getting to be that time, you'll probably get a reminder, but it's time to start thinking about it if you have more time at this time of year versus later in the summer. And this week we're talking about the Lowell Regional Water Utility Project in Lowell, Mass. And Tom, you're going to present on this?
I'd
Do you
be
want
happy
me
to, Ken. Yep.
Continue. Okay.
You can scroll it down if you would. So last week we talked about the Lemonster project, which was a similar project, but just to start this one off, this one was a beast. It took a real Herculean effort on behalf of our crews, and I'll read through this text, but pictures are worth 1,000 words, and you see some great pictures at the end of this. So ECI was subcontracted by DeFelice Corporation of Dracut, Mass. We've worked for them a few times. This project involved two 48-inch casings, one 80-foot in length and one 40-foot in length. During both drives, we encountered rock a number of times, and large rock. And Tom Pigeon, thank you for being on site on that. We had a lot of confined space entries, and it really made the job go smooth having you guys down there. So thank you for that. When we weren't in rock, it just also wanted to indicate, as I wrote here, the test boring logs and the bid documents had us going through compact, dense, silty, fine sand, and high water. And all too often we seem to get into rock when it's not supposed to be there, but we fight through it, and ECI's gotten good at that. So when we were not in the rock, we had great advance rates, seeing moving up to 6 feet an hour at times. Ken, if you want to scroll down a little bit to get to that picture.
Okay.
But yeah, that's fine. I'll point out the pile location when we get there.
Okay.
We don't see this very often, but on this project, we encountered timber piles beneath the box culvert that we were going under, and that was on the longer drive. That we had to pause the project while the city and the engineering firms figured out what we could do to remove those. They'd asked us to go in and remove them by hand and chainsaws and whatnot, and there just was no safe way to do that. So ultimately, they excavated to that point to remove those, and we've got some great photos there. This project right out of the gate, we knew it was going to be a wet project. There was a lot of emphasis on that. They did attempt to use well points. That was unsuccessful, and ultimately brought in 4 18-inch pumps to bypass the Clay Pit Brook. And that brook dumps into the Merrimack River, which is right next to us. And of course, while we were down there, we were in heavy rain most of the time, so that it just added to the frustration of the water table issues. So we used our 14-inch TT Technologies hammer. We call it our Colas hammer, and we cleaned the casings out with our 42-600 auger machine. So this shows a picture of how close we were to the Merrimack River here, and you can't see the Clay Pit Brook necessarily very easily here, but it dumps into the river there. If you want to scroll down some more, Ken.
Long image, so start with plan view and goes to profile.
Yeah, so this was the 80-foot casing. You know, we were jacking from the right side here, and there's 2 culverts we were going underneath. One was a box culvert, one was a corrugated pipe. And when we first got there, they were having all kinds of infiltration issues into our excavation from water surrounding these culverts, and they had a breach. Actually, the second morning we went there, we found literally 9 feet of water in our excavation. So that stopped the project while they figured out what they're going to do with the water, and ultimately, as I mentioned, brought in the bypass pumps. So right here, where you see this, right below where it reads, where my cursor is, 4x6 3-sided culvert. Right below that is where we encountered all the pilings, and we'll show you some good pictures here as we move ahead. And over here, this was the 40-foot casing under a single culvert. And these excavations were fairly deep. We were about 14 feet deep to the top of our casing. So this one here, other than rock, this one went pretty well. We've just finished this up Tuesday of this past week. All right. This is the profile view of that same casing. Culvert we were going under. It was an RCP culvert there, so we didn't have a lot of issues on that one. And here we go. So again, like last week, the welding team, Pat Wells and his team, really were impactful on the success of this project, and just did a fantastic job as always. This one that you don't see the welder's pit here so much, but this is kind of, you see all the sedimentation here. This is what we were supposed to be dealing with, and we did a lot of dealing with that with vac trucks and jet trucks and whatnot. But the rock is really what was the challenge here. You see it, the sedimentation just swamped us a couple of times.
Pretty quick there.
Pretty quick, exactly. It was coming from every direction, and it continued to some degree even after the 18-inch pumps were installed. Looks like here the guys are supporting people in the confined space entry to probably get in there and remove some rock. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what, I haven't seen Mike do that dance before, but
yeah, it's like, ooh.
Yeah. So Mike Wright did a great job on this project as well. He was jumping between here and Exeter, and this was probably weekend work or Friday afternoon work, because when we shut down Exeter, he went over and continued to assist on this project. And that's that mucky sedimentation we were seeing.
Runny sand. Yep.
Yep.
Back truck there.
Yeah, the vac truck, and you can see what they're sucking up down below. But like I said, the first day we went there, this pit had 9 feet of water in it. before they get to bypass. And it was just, obviously it was a breach. It wasn't like that when we started, but they had a lot of cleanup to do a couple of times. A lot of head scratching on how to figure out the water issue here on behalf of the engineering firm. And those are the 4 18-inch pumps bypassing the clay pit brook. And there's sandbags.
I didn't
That's
notice the guy standing next to one.
I questioned those 18-inch pipes. When he told me 18, I said, man, did he say 18? But if you look at the size of that guy, that's probably about right, because it looks like it's a pretty sizable pipe.
Yeah.
And 4 of them. That's moving some water.
So, yep. Sunbelt.
This picture shows the sandbags that they had to put in place to allow it to gather.
DeFelice does what we would probably do here.
Yep, exactly. They're heavy civil contractors, general contractors, and little old school, but they're used to heavy excavation, deep excavations, and heavy work. So.
Yep. Oh, they like to get some nice trench boxes and.
Yep. There's our guys. This is a clean out effort.
Yep.
Whether that was a partial to get in and remove rock or final, it's hard to say by the pictures. And this is a picture of the piling when we first encountered it. And literally there was much discussion of trying to go in there and remove that. We had concerns. We'd already embedded our casing by about 4 to 5 inches inside of the, into that. And then we thought if we cut that out, there'd be continual drag on the pipe, and we were already having enough challenges here. But really, ultimately, it came down to there was no way to safely do it from inside of the pipe, and that's the position we took and held.
Yeah, well, it made sense to just go in from the top. Take
yeah,
it out.
No, absolutely. Other than the impact on traffic and other parts of the project, but that's what had to happen. And here's a great picture. There was a number of these pilings in this area, obviously not expected to be there, but they were there. And, I think we probably, this one to the right on this picture, I think we kind of just missed that one and carried right through it. So, but we never saw that in our spoiling cuttings. So. This picture. So here's some of the rock that we encountered. And if you look, I think this is the casing, the final casing here. On the left side, it looks like there's a dent in that casing. So we hit some heavy rock, and these hammers have enough power to literally collapse these pipes, the smaller ones for sure. But this is a 30-inch water main going inside of a 40-inch casing. So that little bit of indentation had no impact on the project whatsoever. Pat Wells did try to jack it out, but he couldn't safely do that either. But again, it had no impact on the final usability of the pipe. So we were good. That's the rock we were dealing with.
They're retrieving a rock here.
Yep. Getting ready to. So. And I had big thanks to Brian Coda on this one too. He was instrumental on getting this thing all together for sure. So he was there from the beginning to the end.
Pretty cool.
Yep, for sure. So.
It's nice.
Powerful equipment. What's that?
Yep. It's clear that you never know what you might encounter.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be frustrating, but that's when we need to just think it through and make the next steps.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks, Tom. Good presentation. Good project. Lots of hard work went into that one.
Absolutely.
So for the project photo archives, I have some work from down in that same area on the 495 belt. Roughly, it's Worcester and the rail plowing on the Providence and Worcester, the PW, back in October 1999. So
that Gene Trombley sitting there to the left with the sunglasses.
Yep, and then Larry Chamberlain's on the plow. I can't tell if anybody else in there. I'm sure those guys in the background up on the real trailer are ECI folks, but I can't tell who they'd be. So good. Well,
very cool.
Thanks for presenting, Tom, and everybody have a good, safe day out there. I'll turn it back over to the safety department.
Yeah, thank you. Again, as Tom kind of mentioned in the slide, please send us over attendance if you're watching a group setting so we can properly capture who attended. Let's have a safe day. Let's have a great day.
All right.
Thank you.
Care.
Have a good day, everybody.